It's coffee time! It has been a hot minute, but I have so much to tell you about my high school reunion! Oh my goodness. I was really nervous to go to my high school reunion. It happened this last weekend, and most people's response when I said I was going out of town for my reunion, I was literally only gone for 2 days, most people's response was, it's probably not gonna be that great. The only person who said something to me that wound up being very true was Jessie said, by the end of the night, you'll wind up hanging out with people that you never really hung out with before. And that totally happened, and it was awesome. So let me start from the beginning. So I got in pretty late on Friday. I got to spend the night with my cousin, Tierney. She was actually in our graduating class, so I was really sad that she wasn't able to go to the reunion, but again, she just popped out a child, so I got to meet little Katie Rose, like Teary Spawn, as she's been calling her on her streams and stuff, and she is so cute, super adorable, way bigger than Kaylee. I guess babies just grow mega fast. I think she's like a month older than Kaylee. I'm trying to remember when Katie Rose was born. But there's not a whole lot of distance between them, and I noticed a big difference in size. So I was like, dang, babies grow so fast, I can't even. But it was really awesome. I got to spend the night with them and hang out with the baby and catch up with Teary, and it was great. We spent the morning together, and then my mom came and grabbed me. I got ready to go to the reunion. I went and met up with my old friend Jason, who I used to hang out with all the time. He and I were both pretty hyped for the reunion. He was like, oh man, we're gonna do it so big. It's gonna be awesome. We're gonna have so much fun. And I was like, yeah. And we convinced a couple of our other friends that we were pretty sure we're not gonna show up. Kind of convinced people to come, which was awesome. Drove up, blasting metal, which felt like high school again. We both dressed really nice, which it turned out that the reunion for the most part was pretty casual, but we were like, all right, either we can dress nice and be the people who dressed up for a fairly casual thing, and that's like a little weird, or it could be really nice and we're the only ones who are casual, and that might be weirder, unsure. So we both showed up looking pretty alright, you know? I wore like a really casual dress with a scarf, with my pink scarf, my famed pink scarf, and my heeled black sneakers. And then Jason wore like a full suit. It was awesome. We were just like, let's go, let's do this. We drove up. Turned out that there were two of the same place. So it was a sports bar that we went to, and there were two of them fairly close together. We kept trying to get a hold of the people who put together the whole reunion. And they weren't responding, obviously, because the reunion was about to start or had started. We got up there, we parked, we were like, all right, it's 50-50 shot. We'll just go to one and see what happens. We walked into this one, didn't recognize anyone there, finally managed to grab a hostess, and said, hey, do you have a high school reunion happening here? And she was like, nope, other location. We're like, dang it. So we looked at how close it was. It was like a 15-minute walk, and we just decided to hoof it. So we walked to the other location, we got there, and it was awesome. It was like this big, it was like a big open air deck, sort of sports bar. It was weird, but it was perfect. The weather was fantastic. I don't know how we managed that, but it was like the perfect temperature, really nice outside, even into the night. Nobody was wearing jackets or anything. We were all just like, cool, it was great weather for fall in Oregon. Man, met so many people where I was like, why didn't we hang out in high school? And eventually there would be moments where we'd be, reminiscing about high school memories, and they'd say something and I'd be like, that's why, because I never wanted to get in trouble and you did not care. Like, you were totally down to get in trouble. My biggest fear going to my reunion, and I think that this is probably common, my biggest fear going to my reunion was that I was going to show up and look around And with my memory for faces and names, I'm bad with both. Most people can say, I've got a really good memory for faces, but I forget names. Or, I totally remember names, but I forget faces. I can't do either. I'm bad with both. So I showed up, and it turned out I recognized pretty much everybody. I was really happy. There were a couple of people who had sort of big transformations, so that was not my fault. Pretty much everybody was going, are you? Oh my God, you are. You know, it was like this moment of realization where you're like, whoa, you lost a ton of weight, or whoa, you are way taller, right? Like, big differences happened with a few people. But for the most part, I recognized a lot of people. There was one person way into the night that I called by the wrong name because people started switching name tags. We all had name tags because my old friend Bree on, we had like a Facebook group. My old friend Bree on the Facebook group was like, should we have name tags? And Kim, the one who set the whole thing up, she was like, don't worry, we're on it. So most people were wearing name tags. I was never given one. And somebody said something really flattering to me that made me feel really good about myself. I was like, oh my gosh, I don't have a name tag. I should probably figure out where I can get one of those. And one of my old high school friends was like, oh, don't bother. Everybody knows who you are by this point. I was like, oh, thanks. Weird situations were people who brought their significant others and the significant other knew who I was. That was awesome and also really strange because for the most part, the people that I went to high school with, even if they know what I do, they don't actually watch. You know, there's a very select group of people who are like, yeah, this is totally within my interest zone, and I get that. Like, even if people know that I'm making videos, I'm like, oh, that's so awesome that you know that I do that. There were definitely a couple people who were there that did not go to high school with us who were like, I watch your videos sometimes, or like, I watch the Co-optional podcast, I've seen you on the podcast, and I'm like, that's nuts. Like, what a weird crossover. It's so cool. So yeah, I got to catch up with so many people. There were a lot of people that I spent a lot of time talking with that I never talked to in high school, like ever. Or if I did, it was very, very rare, you know? And that's so strange to me. Thinking back, I'm like, I remember this person being really cool. We just didn't connect as friends in high school, you know? And seeing adult versions of everybody was really, really interesting. And seeing that, for the most part, everybody still was really down to get along and just have fun with each other. And yeah, I really loved it. So around midnight, that shut down, right? Around midnight, the bar was like, all right, we got to kick you guys out. Sorry. So it turned out there's a barcade that's pretty well known in Portland called Ground Control. And Ground Control was like maybe 3 or 4 blocks away. So a ton of us were like, let's go to Ground Control. I still have my stamp. It won't come off. I don't understand. Anyways, we were like, let's go to Ground Control. Yeah, let's do that. So a ton of us walked to an arcade, right? We walked to this small arcade. I mean, it's not small, but it's cramped, I think is a better way to say it. It's like 2 stories, but it's like lots of game machines, and you have to sort of, you know, it took a while for all of us to get in there because they were at capacity, so they would let a couple people out and then let a couple people in. We stayed there for a while, maybe like an hour and a half. A few of my friends and I were competing to get the best score on Pirates of the Caribbean pinball. I lost. My friend Jeff totally creamed us by the end, and we were like, nope, you got the highest score. There's no way we're ever going to beat that. It's just not going to happen. And then, because this is totally, I don't know when I started feeling this way. I think I'm gonna blame conventions, but pretty much every time I'm in a group outing scenario or like a party scenario, right? For me, the best way to end the night is to go to a 24-hour diner. And you guys know diners are my favorite types of restaurants. So we had been at this reunion, which didn't have a ton of food, and then at the arcade, and I was like, yo, who's hungry? and a bunch of people were, pretty hungry. So I was like, guys, we should go to a diner, and then we can just chill and drink coffee and chat for a while, like as a group. And a bunch of people were super, super into it, but not all of us had a car, right? So we looked on Yelp. There was a Denny's that was so close to us, and my old friend Nicole and I decided we'll walk there because we're not driving. We don't have a car to go and grab. We'll walk there. Actually, we walked there with Jeff, but Jeff split off with us at a certain point so that he could go grab his car because he was like, you know what, I should probably just grab my car. We decided we were going to walk, and everybody else went to grab their cars so that we would have all of the cars there. We get halfway there and realize that the Denny's is closed. It had just closed. So then we're going, oh no, it's not 24 hours. What do we do? Thus, created this situation where all of the cars had already gotten to Denny's. They were like sort of waiting for orders, right? We were all just like on standby. Nicole and I were at a street corner in the middle of Portland near the water. Nicole had to pee super bad. We were trying to get a hold of people. And pretty much everybody who was answering the phone was slightly intoxicated. Like, the driver was never the one answering the phone, right? It was like the passenger who was trying to negotiate with us where we were to come and grab us so that we could all just, carpool somewhere else. And at a certain point, Nicole was like, I have to pee so bad, I'm just gonna go. So it's like 2:30 in the morning. Nicole is trying to find a rock that she can like squat behind to pee. We're on the phone trying to get a hold of somebody who could grab us in their car. I finally get a hold of Jason, and I don't know how much you heard or at what point it stops recording, but where we left off was Nicole peeing behind a rock. So I get a hold of Jason. And he has been very responsible, very sober, very easy to talk to, right? I was like, can you grab us? These are the streets we're at. And he was like, oh yeah, totally. Is there in like 2 minutes, maybe 3 minutes. We were like, oh, thank God, because everybody else was going, wait, where are you right now? It was so bad. So Jason grabs us. And we all decide to go to a Sherry's. And Sherry's is a chain. It's a 24-hour diner chain that I think is only in Oregon. It might also be in Washington. I'm not positive. But we decide to leave it to Nicole to figure out where we're going, right? So she says, all right, we're going to this Sherry's. And she sends everybody the address, and we're all going to Sherry's. So for whatever reason, she chose the Sherry's that was even further north, which meant we were basically on the edge of hitting Washington by the time we got to this Sherry's. We were like, where are we going? Because she originally said, oh, there's one 5 minutes from us. We're like, okay. It took us at least 20 minutes to get to this Sherry's, but we all got there. I don't understand. I don't know how it happened, but there were like 14 of us, and we all managed to get to this Sherry's and sit together and have like a great diner experience and just chill for like an hour, and it was amazing. And Nicole kept saying this thing throughout the entire night, and eventually it became a joke that she would just keep changing the ratio. But she was like, guys, we should totally watch the sunrise. And we looked up what time the sun was going to rise, and it was at 7, and at that point it was like 3 or 4 o'clock. 4 o'clock for sure, not 3 o'clock, because I think we got there at 3 o'clock. At that point it was like 4, and we were like, oh, Nicole, that's so much time to kill. This is like a lot of time to kill. And she was like, I know, but this is like a 1 in 5 opportunity in our life, you know? And the way she explained that statement was, we'll get a 10-year reunion, a 20-year reunion, 30, 40, and maybe 50-year reunion for high school. So this was like a possible 1 in 5 opportunity with this group of people to watch the sunrise, because who knows if one of us is going to drop dead, was like the idea. It was like basically what she was saying. And we were like, probably not going to watch the sunrise, Nicole, but it's a lovely sentiment. I wish we could, but we're all going to pass out pretty quick here. I feel it. And then throughout the night, she kept being like, guys, this is like our 1 in 8 chance to see the sunrise. It got so funny. But yeah, and then Jason was like falling asleep at the table. And he goes, we gotta roll. He just looks at me. We like made eye contact and he was like, we gotta bounce. We gotta go. It's time. I was like, all right, we have to drive home. Otherwise Jason is not gonna make it. So, he was wide awake once we got in the car, thank goodness. But he drove me all the way home, which was awesome because my parents drove me to his house so that he wouldn't have to drive the whole way to come and grab me. But he was totally willing to drop me off at like 5 in the morning at my house, which was fantastic. And it was just like overall a really, really, really fun night. There were a lot of people that weren't there, which was kind of a bummer. Like, we had a huge turnout. Our turnout for our reunion was bigger than I think the last 5 reunions that have happened. The last 5 10-year reunions that have happened. Like, we blew it out of the water. We had nearly 80 people that showed up, or at least bought tickets, which is awesome. There were a ton of us there. It was super cool. But there was still a bunch of people that were obviously not there, which sort of sucked. But yeah. Oh, yeah, the last part of that name tag thing was that people started swapping name tags, and then there was this guy that I hadn't talked to in the whole night, and he was jokingly being like, oh, nobody remembers who I am, and I was like, I remember, because looking at his name, I was like, I remember your name, yeah, I totally remember you, and then he looked at me, and then got this weird look on his face, and was like, you know this isn't me, right? And I was like, you guys are switching name tags. I was so offended. I was like, you can't do that. Not here. Not now. To be fair, eventually I was wearing Jeff's name tag. It's just like, I don't have a name tag. It's just like, but it was really fun. I walked into my house. This is probably the latest I've ever been out. And like let me put it this way. It's the latest I've ever come home after being out at like my Oregon house. So I walked in, my mom was up. I was like, why are you awake? And she was like, oh, Jason's car woke me up. And I gave her the fisheye because I knew I had looked at my phone and she had texted me 20 minutes ago being like, are you coming home tonight? I was like, you've been awake. But yeah, the first thing, I walk in and she looks at me and goes, it is 5 o'clock in the morning. And I went, yes, it is. And then I just went to bed. And in the morning, I woke up at 10 a.m. My mom was shocked. I was like, Mommy, I go to conventions. I know how to do this. I know how to go to bed really late and then get up really early and make it work. So, thank goodness. I've had so much training at this point. But overall, reunion was fantastic. I highly encourage people to go to their reunions. I mean, I'm in a specific situation because I didn't have any beef with anybody. Our school, at least the people in my grade, I always felt were very we're very open to one another. We didn't have a lot of bullying or clique problems, I felt. Everybody was pretty friendly with one another when we were in school. So having the reunion was pretty nice. Things felt like they clicked into place very, very easily. But if that isn't the case, I almost feel like that would be way more interesting and way more worth it to go and see what these people who were such extremes turned out to be like, right? If you have like a really major clique problem at your school and you have a reunion coming up, I think it would be fascinating to go and see who gets along with who by the end. Because again, the people that I went to that diner with, by the end of the night, half of them I was super good friends with in high school, and the other half barely ever hung out with them. So it was cool. It was a very cool night. I'm very glad that I went. And that's the end of my reunion story. But I hope that you guys have had a fantastic week. And I'll talk to you again soon. Maybe tomorrow, maybe the next day, but soon. Mwah! Bye-bye!